Hi, YouTube. I'm Marissa.
I'm Connor.
And together we're
Carissa.
Carissa.
You keep getting better at that.
I think we do.
I swear. Practice makes perfect.
So I think this is going to be a little different video than we typically do on the channel, but I think it's a necessary one.
Yeah. We just watched a new video from Squirmy Grubs about Shane's Brilliant Complex. And we wanted to do our own version of a reaction video rather than, sit here and go through the video and reacting to it. We just kind of want to talk about it and talk about what our feelings towards being a burden and disability and kind of their take on it as well.
So the topic specifically is the most recent video that they have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the major question I think he asks at the beginning of it
is, well, the video title is different than the video topic.
That's correct.
Which is typical. The video topic, I think, is, are disabled people burdens to their loved ones. And they kind of give context to this by reading a bunch of comments that they received. I get it, it gives context to the video, but I think, the general public understands that there is a perception of disabled people being burdensome, so I don't really think the reading comments was necessary. Furthermore, it felt a little tacky to be putting commenters on blast, especially when they even made their own assumptions
about who the commenters are,
yeah.
about, their marital status or their gender. Or
Yep. So, I think if you're going to be collecting people for their assumptions about you, maybe don't make assumptions about them. From that point on, Shane right away jumped into the topic about him feeling like a burden, which Hannah had to correct and say, oh, this is really meant to be about how disabled people feel like burdens. So it was interesting that, from their two perspectives, Shane seemed to make it about him, whereas Hannah wanted to
broaden the scope.
Keep the scope broad. They started out by asking the audience if the audience feels like Shane is a burden, and they want people to leave comments to that effect. Now, we didn't leave a comment, but we're here to answer that question. Do we feel like Shane is a burden to his wife? Do we? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I was gonna say, nice way to just ease into that one. I mean, I think it's contextual.
I don't think they give enough information for anyone to actually know the answer to that. I mean, my instinct is no, because I'm looking at that from my perspective, and I don't feel like I'm a burden to you. But looking at their relationship, one thing that they say is, well, that the general public knows, or they think they know, how they support each other. It's very obvious how Hannah supports Shane. I mean, I think anyone with two eyes and a brain understands that. It's not as obvious how Shane supports Hannah. And I'm not saying he doesn't. He better know. Well, and he probably does. But
that's just not widely spoken.
It's not.
Or displayed within their channel.
Correct. We're not avid Shane and Hannah followers, so we did have to ask ChatGPT if they have any content that talks about that, and there were some broad categories, but like nothing specific about what Shane contributes. And the fact that Hannah, when asked, is Shane a burden to her, she simply just answered no, which That's right. But to be more convincing, it would have helped to know why. And I don't think they did a great job of that.
Yeah, I don't think they did, especially in this video. I mean, there was a couple of other videos that they did have that we kind of like glanced through
Sure.
after asking ChatGPT, because we realize, on the grand scheme of things, their story is basically like he moved in with her, she was still in college,
Hmm.
they began their relationship, and she does talk about in like a little snippet about like moving in together, but really,
And what that meant for, caregiving and when she would be in class or when she would go to swim practice. But they don't actually talk about how
like logistic.
they handled that
Yeah.
logistically. So, the implications of that were that she needs to be with him at all times, which probably isn't healthy. And to me, would sort of feel burdensome if that was the expectation, especially without the context of knowing what he's putting into that relationship. And I think that's where the internet loves to hate, and they get a lot of hate. Most of it is probably unfounded. A lot of it makes me cringe to see what people say about them. But I do think there is a sliver of like, I get where some of the, let's just say, distrust comes from. There's another snippet in this video where Shane talks about sort of the foundation of his burnout complex. He mentions a story about school trips and riding the short bus on field trips and how teachers would assign students to ride the short bus with him and just seeing the utter disappointment on their face when this would happen.
Was that your experience?
No, no, not at all. I mean, from my experience, when we would go on trips that were long enough to cross state lines, they would rent a coach bus, and the coach buses always have lifts so that I could ride with other students. If there weren't, longer trips, we would use district buses, which granted there was a short bus, but the teacher never had to assign students to ride with me. They would just ask for volunteers. And I had a decent circle of friends that were very anxious to ride with me. I mean, it was looked at as a chance to get away from teachers and goof off. So it was never this feeling of being disappointed. It was actually a perk, something that people wanted to do. So when I listened to his story, I just did not identify with it at all. We grew up in the same area of the world, same area of the state, even. So I can't imagine that his school district functioned significantly different than mine. This didn't ring true for me, and that either said something about the story or the person telling the story.
Yeah. I mean, he then goes on to talk about, a specific experience, asking Hannah, like just after she sat down to get something and feeling that like internal feeling of,
Burdensome,
yeah.
being burdensome. And how, yes, remind himself, if he needs something and she had just sat down, that he doesn't have to apologize for asking for something. I think in general that's true. And I think that's something that I do as well.
Yeah.
But there's no context here. And I think context is extremely important. What is the need that he has that he's asking for? Is it, hey, babe, I know you just sat down, but I really got to pee. Like, yeah, you should ask for that. Or is it like, hey, babe, you just sat down and I have an itch on my nose? Like, you know. Also, and this is something you brought up.
Yeah, this is something that I brought up. I also thought, like, is this request something that either could have been fixed via accessibility or like technology modifications? You know, like I could feel like I could see feeling like a burden if you're asking for something that like to turn on the light, right? Like we have resources that we use so you can independently turn on the light and not feel like a burden. So like, you know, that was my question. Like the context is really important, like you said. Like there really isn't any. So like, yeah, sure, he might feel this pang of feeling like a burden, but if there's no context given to the audience, like
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one thing to ask for help because you need it. You shouldn't feel like a burden for that. But it's another thing to ask because it's easier than whatever the alternative is. And I think that is where there's a degree of like selfishness. And I'm not saying Shane is selfish. I'm just asking the question, you know, are you exploring every alternative available so that you're not being burdensome? You know, there's even a scene at the end of the video where they're joking and he's like, will you get my coffee? Well, I know you have a J alarm. Why are you not using your J alarm? Would that not be make it so that you don't have to ask? Shane then goes on to talk about when he feels the need to apologize for things, for asking for help, and how he's learned to check in with his mood, which will inform him, I guess, on when he should apologize for asking for help and when he shouldn't or doesn't need to apologize for asking for help. This to me was probably the biggest red flag of the video. It basically implied that it was only okay to ask for help when she was in a good mood. I mean, right?
yeah, I mean,
I
that
think,
was kind of the overall feeling of it. I mean, you could probably like create internal nuances of like what he truly meant, and like there's probably linguists who would break that down, and you know psychologists who could analyze that statement. But like the general feeling, yeah, that was
I also think it was interesting that, like, I get that, like, sure, he's in therapy for his burnout complex, and like, he was just speaking off the cuff, but like, he didn't correct him. Like, at no point was she like, you can ask me for help whenever. Like, yeah, I might be in a bad mood sometimes, but that doesn't mean I don't want to help you. She just let him speak, which
yeah. But on the same vein, there was cutting at the end of that
there
scene,
was.
so we really don't know like what the true video was, right? Like the
Yeah,
raw, unedited footage.
there was an interesting cut at the end of that bit, which was then interrupted by an interjection from Hannah, followed by a second cut. So you're right. I mean, we don't know what was actually said, but that whole exchange gave me the ick. But yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. There, there's an interesting afterthought clip
After edit,
after edit.
during edit clip that they interjected in.
Well, it wasn't even there. It was him.
Oh, okay. I mean, we don't. Yeah, I guess she's because she specifically said while I was editing the video,
Which
we forgot. I realized we forgot to mention
which I have to point out. I think it's interesting that Hannah edits the video because as the one in this relationship
who edits the
who
videos.
edits the video,
Not I.
it's a lot of work, and I would think that as someone disabled in a relationship where you have expressed feeling burdensome, you would jump at the chance to contribute in an area where you have the ability to contribute. But yeah, so Hannah goes on to basically talk about how caregiver burden is a real thing and, it shouldn't be an afterthought, but that it's not relevant to them. She talks about how there are structural deficiencies to caregiver support, blah, blah, blah. I just, none of it felt sincere or genuine
I mean,
because,
it truly felt like an afterthought.
yeah.
Which I mean, it was clearly, but
Mm-hmm.
like it really was like, oh crikey, like we're creating a video and we're not even talking about like
The
in
actual problem,
yeah.
which it just to me highlights how detached from their not their audience, but their
True connection to like the everyday.
to their platform.
Yeah.
I mean, how detached from their platform they are. This is only our interpretation as the Wish.com interabled couple out there, interabled influencer couple.
I would second that. We're the wish.com
Yep.
version.
I think overall, for me at least, let you give your impressions next. I I don't show with burden complex. I understand that Shane might. This video just highlights that. He says that his burden complex is a 4 out of 10. I think this video is perfect a 10 out of 10. I think this video is entirely rooted in his insecurity. He's received comments about how he's a burden. This video is his attempt to console himself, to get Hannah to console him about something that he feels badly about. And I have sympathy for him for that. I mean, nobody should feel like a burden. I think you should take solace in like your relationship and really be introspective and say, what am I contributing? And if at the end of that introspection, you know, you don't think you're contributing enough, maybe change some things. Also, there's a lot of like, should you feel apologetic for things? And to me, the answer is no. But I don't think feeling thankful is unhealthy. I think feeling thankful is a normal, empathetic human reaction to the fact that somebody is helping you and, it may cause them extra effort. But I never got a sense in this video at least, for any of that thankfulness. There was never an expression of gratitude, which to me would be the positive spin on the burden complex.
Yeah, I mean, I do see on your perspective there, but like, I also think that you have fostered that in, your choices. Like, you independently had caregivers, you chose your staff, your parents were not, I was going to say, like, not giving you negative energy, when you asked for things. I mean, maybe they did. I don't, but like, knowing what I know of them now, I don't think they were like, no, Connor, unless it was something legitimate, like, and I just think that like there are some people who do experience like the sole caregiver that they do have in their life is.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So like I think that like there's a fine line between like having a feeling of like thankfulness for something they're doing and like the feeling of feeling burdensome,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I think you've just done a really like, I think you've tried to cultivate that feeling of thankfulness
Yeah.
in like, who you bring around.
Yeah.
I also feel like there wasn't anything in this video that like specifically supported like him not being one.
That's what I mean. I mean, at no point was he like, "This is what I do for him."
No, but I also mean from like Hannah's perspective. Like,
Agreed.
nowhere was she like, you know what? Like, no, this is what Shane does for me.
Correct.
Like, and I feel that like as I mean, I'm not your full time caregiver by any means. Like, I do
Mhm.
help out, but like, I do feel that like I don't personally feel the burden because I have that split amongst people. Like, it's not like I come home from a 8-hour workday and I'm at
Right.
liberty of whatever
Right.
you ask me. Like we have created that in our relationship that like
Mm-hmm.
we've created that like independence of each other to be
Yeah.
able to get what we need done. So like I don't feel that way, but also like I also recognize that Connor put in a lot of effort on making sure he has caregiving staff and calling the agency and all this other things that like I don't
Well,
feel that burden.
and not to mention, like we have, like everything side of things, like our just structure dynamic. Like I take care of like most of like we'll call it like the administrative stuff of us living together, like paying bills, doing um, taxes, like figuring out who we need to call for
Planning our
planning
vacations.
vacations, like doctor visits, whether they're mine or yours, like
Yeah.
calling your OBGYN and saying that. So like there are ways that I contribute to our relationship. And like I don't see that on their side of things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just
They're
saying
not public about it at least.
correct.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people doubt, like that's where the doubt comes from.
I mean, and that's what spikes the like major question that this was,
Correct.
posed upon. Like, does the audience that watched Squirmy and Grubs think that Shane's a burden?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think that's all our thoughts on that.
Yeah. So we're not gonna link to their video because we don't want to do that. But
You could
check it
probably
out,
Google
maybe.
it or search it
Yeah.
in YouTube and find it.
And see what your own thoughts were. If you do decide to watch it, I'd be curious. You can comment on this video, let us know what your thoughts were and how accurate you think that their portrayal is. Any closing thoughts from you?
No, I don't think I have anything
Yeah.
to close after that.
Okay. Well, thanks, YouTube. We'll see how this video does. This is the first for us. We may or may not do more of these if y'all like it. We certainly have a lot to say on the subject of Squirmy and Grubs. So we could make plenty of these videos.
Yeah, we could. We just at the moment choose not to.
Yep.
Well, thanks for watching and give us a like if you liked this video.
And subscribe because
Because we apparently only have
oh my
332.
goodness. I said 300.
Oh, okay. 336. I don't know, whatever the number's at now. Well, we appreciate all 336, 32, 30 of you.
And the few of you that watch us regularly and comment regularly, thank you.
Yeah,
It's always
thanks.
appreciated. All right, we'll catch you.
On the flippy flop, as
You
Connor
said
says.
it right this time.
I'm learning.
Catch you on the flippy flop.